And hello, movie lovers. And tonight, I actually have one of my good friends on with me, and then that's Josh. He's actually a Merc with a movie blog. He's back again to talk about Scream. We're going to be reviewing Scream 5, which is also known as Scream 2022. But without further ado, let's go on ahead. Let's get on with the show. It's good to have him here, and let's do this. And hey, Josh, how are you doing, my man?
Hey, man, I'm doing pretty good. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. It's always a good night to talk about Scream, and of course, you actually have your little buddy with you sitting next to you, so that's always good.
Oh, yeah.
You got little Mr. Ghostface sitting next to you as a special guest, so I do appreciate him taking the night of his night of killing to talk about his own murder, so that's always a plus. So I remember seeing this in theaters, and I remember not enjoying this one as much as I wanted to. Now, I know everyone's probably wondering, well, what do I think of it now? And I'm going to get to that later on within my review on what I think about it now after reviewing it. And then after that, I'm going to go in through my rankings, even though I did my rankings after I did the other one with Vengeance. But, I think that this is actually a pretty cool concept of having it take place 22 years later and seeing what these other characters have been up to since then, especially with Dewey and then Gail and of course Courtney Cox's not Courtney Cox, but Nev Campbell's character of Sydney, and seeing what those characters have been doing after all this time. But when you first saw this in theaters, what did you think of it?
I actually saw it on Paramount Plus first.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't get a chance to see it in theaters, but I love this movie. I mean, I'm just gonna say it's my favorite other than the original, and even after rewatching it, I still feel that way. I love pretty much everything that they do in it. They take some pretty big swings with it, and I thought it worked. But yeah, I was really impressed, and I haven't gotten a chance to see the new one yet, so I'm really excited to see what they do to continue with these characters. So
okay, but yeah, we're gonna go ahead and talk about this. But yeah, it takes place 24 years after Billy Loomis and Stu Macher's killing spree in Woodsboro High School. Student Tara Carpenter is home alone when she is attacked by Ghostface and left hospitalized. And this is some of the things I really liked within the movie itself, how it opens up. Of course, we always had that the stabbing scene always in the introduction into the Scream movies. But I like how they make us more self-aware of how the horror genre has actually changed once again. Because we talked about this in Scream 4.
Yes.
Where they talked about different types of horror movies. And now this time they go with the Babadook. They go with all these other films and how they
elevated horror. They talk about a lot, which I thought was really cool. I love this opening because it's you think it's gonna be the typical opening, and it's not, because she doesn't die. And she becomes a main character throughout the movie. That's something that we've never seen before in any of the other Scream movies. And I thought that was fascinating.
That's what I liked about it, though, too, was the fact that she is the main focus of it, Jenna Ortega's character of Tara being in this movie. And I like how she's just minding her own business, just having a night where she's going to watch a movie once again. And then you get that phone call of, what's your favorite scary movie? And then she starts going into the Babadook, the different horror movies. And then I like how they play off the technical aspect of it, where now there's new technology now. We talked about this in Scream 4, where we had the smartphones and things like that. But now we're dealing with smartphones and also the cameras and the doorbells. We're dealing with
the home security systems. With the ability to lock your hot door from a button, which I thought was a really cool aspect that he was able to. She actually was able to, I'm assuming, hack into the system, because I mean she was able to clone. She says clone. But I'm wondering if she cloned Tara's phone instead, because like getting access to that can't be that easy, you would think. So it was interesting.
It was definitely interesting on how they played off the narrative of the cloning the phones and doing the system itself, the security systems. And that's what I liked, was how self-aware it was to that point. And then when Ghostface goes on ahead and tries to thinks that we're going to go on ahead and kill Amber, Because normally it's always the girl that's introduced in the very first of it, but no, they wind up introducing us to Amber, which is one of her friends. And she's like, well, you only have, well, let's play a little game. Let's go ahead and see how much you actually know about horror movies. So she's like, and she does not know anything about the stab movies or anything like that. And that's when Ghostface, I'm going to give you 3 questions. And those 3 questions, if you get them wrong, I'm going to kill your friend Amber. And so I like how you're also using IMDb as her source.
Yeah.
I
thought that was great. I mean, it's a smart move, really, because you're stuck on the phone with this person. They're asking you all these questions, and that's life and death, man. I mean, you gotta find a way. You gotta find a way. Yeah.
I'm actually surprised Ghostface didn't say no Google, no IMDb, and he actually searches. Right.
I think it doesn't matter because it wouldn't. Honestly, it didn't matter whether she got him right or wrong.
That's true.
It really didn't, because she could have actually answered that last question correctly. Which both times I watched it, because I watched it when it first came out last year, and then this is the first time since. So like, I had forgotten some of the stuff, in between. So some of it was fresh to me. And both times when she doesn't answer that last question correctly, I'm like, no, you're wrong. There's 2 killers.
Exactly, because I remember when I was like, no, you forgot about Stu, Billy and Stu.
Yep.
And I was even doing the same thing. I said, no, girl, you got that one wrong. Amber's going to die now. And then instead, like, Ghostface comes out of nowhere.
How does she forget Stu Macher when we find out later on that her best friend lives in Stu's house? Like,
my thing is, do you think that she knew that it was Stu's house, or did you think that she didn't know any of the history of that house?
I mean, I guess it depends on whether or not Amber ever talked about it, because Amber knew.
Right.
I don't know if she ever talked about it, but I don't know.
Amber seems like the type of person that would actually keep to herself about that. Maybe. But still, it's a small town, so you would actually have to figure small town talk. So you would have to think that Tara would know something about it.
Yeah.
Though, but still, yeah. How do you forget about Stu? And besides Billy, but yeah. And then you also have this one. She winds up being hospitalized, and then of course Tara's in Modesto, with her which is Sam Carpenter. Which I like how they're naming these characters after certain directors. Like you have John Carpenter, then you have Wes in this movie, which is a little tip of the hat to Wes Craven. So I do appreciate the little tip of the hats to other horror directors in this movie. So that's something I really do appreciate that.
Yeah, I love that.
But yeah, she winds up being informed by Wes Hicks, which was Dewey's partner in the 4th one, and one of Tara's friends, about the attack.
Deputy Judy.
That's what I didn't mind her in. I didn't mind Judy being in this one that much.
Yeah.
Because she wasn't like up in the forefront like she was with Dewey, trying to get that awkward candies and trying to get him to sleep with her and stuff like that. It was just awkward on that. But this one, she was pretty much like a background character in a sense, where she wasn't up in the forefront.
I'll say this, we talked about it in the Scream 4 review, that I love that movie. Like, I like it more than the other sequels. But there was a lot of stuff that they did in that movie that they fixed in this. They made Judy a better character. We haven't gotten to him yet, but they put back stuff about Dewey that they took away in the 4th movie that bothered me quite a bit, that we talked about. I really think this movie is what they were trying to do with Scream 4, and they weren't able to do that. So I think that's a big reason why I like this one much more, is because it felt like they actually finally succeeded at what they were trying to do with the previous one.
Right. And like you mentioned, the 4th one, that was pretty much like a reboot. in a sense, where basically they were taking everything that we knew about those characters and putting them in to the fourth film like that without the continuity of the other film. So
Yeah.
it definitely fits into what they were doing for the fourth one. But this one, we have more continuity within the other films now. It's more cohesive, in my opinion.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I find it interesting also because we talked about in the last one how the music to you felt off.
Yeah.
And they went back and reused original music for this movie, and I loved it.
Me too.
Every single time, you know, those very specific pieces of music would play. It just took me right back to that original movie. I loved it.
Same here. I thought the music wasn't off this time. I felt like everything worked within that stuff. It's just like little small things within the movie itself I had problems with, like little nitpicks and stuff like that. But I thought that they did a good job at trying to fix whatever problems that they had with the fourth one, though.
Yeah.
In a sense. But yeah, then you also have, of course, Tara's friends about the attack. Sam returns to Woodsboro with her boyfriend Richie. And I just find it hilarious that Richie is the same guy from The Boys.
Yeah.
And I'm like, really? You picked a scrawny guy to be your boyfriend type person and stuff like that. But I thought that was kind of weird to actually have him in here. But I thought it was actually hilarious, though, too, at the same time.
Yeah.
Then, of course,
his character, I think, is the only one to me that just it felt a little off. And I mean, maybe that's what they wanted. They wanted you to kind of feel off kilter with that character, you know, just in general, because, you know, of what happens at the end. But he just, I don't know, compared to everybody else, he didn't fit to me.
No, he didn't fit into the storyline that well. And, you know, even with him trying to convince that he's not the killer, I didn't really find that very convincing or anything like that either. But I just felt like it was very miscast or misplaced in this movie.
Yeah.
As well. But, you know, it is what it is. But Sam is reunited with Tara's friend group. Wes, Amber, Freeman, twins Chad and Mindy, Meeks Martin, and Liv McKenzie. That night, Liv's ex-boyfriend Vince Schneider, who is Stu's nephew, is killed by Ghostface after an encounter with Ghostface at the hospital.
I mean, this kill was vicious. It made me realize just how incredibly aggressive this version of Ghostface is. And I thought that was fantastic. And because the majority of these kills are Amber, which is when you go through the other movies that have a female killer, you have 2 and 4. It's the guy who does most of the killing, but in this it's not, and I like that. And she is vicious with her kills. I thought that was pretty fantastic.
I did too. And you can actually tell how aggressive that she actually is with the way she's killing everybody, though, too. Yeah. And it's just, I like the fact that you're using her to your abilities and letting the guy be on the sidelines for a little bit and only use him whenever you need him.
I mean, you really only see, I think, one of his kills, or well, I should say one of his attempted kills, because he doesn't even do the job. And that's with I can't remember her name, but it's the female twin. I don't honestly remember what her name is now, and I noticed something about him, the way he goes to kill. He kills like Stu. He double hands it because he's as insecure about it as Stu was. Yeah.
Right. You can definitely tell that he was just basically suckered into this, just like how Stu was.
Yeah.
In a sense, but he mimics Stu in a way that is very spot on, especially whenever you see one of the other characters who's watching stab and basically the same kind of dynamic. And he also raises his hands just like Stu does.
Yep.
And stuff like that. So yeah, he does mimic Stu, and even I noticed that. Hey, baby. But yeah, I even noticed that myself. But yeah, I thought that was actually pretty cool how it's like 90% Amber and 10% Richie. So I thought that they balanced it out very well, and I thought the motives for Amber actually worked a lot better than what Stu's was.
Yeah.
Not Stu, Richie, than what Richie's was. Yeah.
For Richie. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's what another thing. It's like the whole character of Richie, he's the one part of the movie that I don't like is him. Just him.
But then after that kill, we actually get to see that, after an encounter of Ghostface at the hospital, Sam tells Tara that she has been dealing with the hallucinations of Billy, who Sam learned as a teenager was her biological father. Sam's true prestige resulted in their parents' separation, and is why Sam became enraged from Tara. So another thing too is I want to mention this: the hospital stuff didn't work for me because of the fact it's in broad daylight. You actually have Tara fighting Ghostface in the hospital and stuff like that too. And I'm like, okay, well, where's everybody? Where's the hospital staff at? I can see it was like night,
but we talked about that in the fourth movie,
right?
They're not being people around. I don't know how that kind of a commotion didn't attract anybody into the room, but it's one of those things. And unfortunately, when it comes to a movie like this, plus it's a small town. I don't know how big this hospital is realistically. Yeah, I don't. It's one of those things. But I did notice that Amber is a much more bold killer, and is willing to kill in the open, in daylight. It's because it happens again later on with Judy, like
right,
broad daylight, out right in the open, has no problem doing this. Like it's an interesting switch up for this killer compared to what we've seen in the previous movies.
Right, because during the daytime we're supposed to feel like we're safe from these killers. So basically, with Amber doing that, she's turning the whole entire trope on its head. Be like, well, you may feel like you're safe in the safe at night, but in the daylight, you need to watch us too.
Yeah.
So I definitely like how they switched up the dynamic on that part with the now. I thought the outside kill actually does work.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Absolutely.
When she does that. And a matter of fact, when I remember watching this in theaters, and I was just thinking to myself, okay, I'm looking at height and the difference in the height, and you can see the difference between the two of them.
Yeah.
Too. So that was something else that I thought was pretty neat.
Yeah.
So yeah, then I also thought that the hallucination part with Billy and Sam actually works in this movie.
I love that they went that route, because I remember when I first watched it, I was like, holy shit, they actually got Skeet Ulrich back, and they did the de-aging on him and stuff, which I thought was really cool. I was not expecting that at all, and I thought that was fascinating, and it really gave that character a lot of depth, gave the character of Sam a lot of extra depth, I thought. So
same here. It gives you a lot more of a cohesiveness to her character and makes her more whole. Yeah. And knowing that she's battling with this, it makes me wonder if they were going to go with a split personality type with her, where she basically winds up becoming a killer later on.
I mean, that could have been actually really interesting, where it's kind of like, I mean, spoiler alert for this very old movie, but it could have been like Secret Window kind of a thing.
Right.
You know what I mean? Where she doesn't even know that she's doing this stuff. That could have been interesting, but
but I like the fact that she's self-aware of the fact that this is not normal for her either, to have these hallucinations, because most characters, when you see them, they're like, okay, well, I might have saw something, I might have not seen something, but I'm not 100% sure. With Sam, on the other hand, she's very self-aware to the point where she's like, you know what, I'm having these hallucinations and I have a problem with these hallucinations, and they're not normal. And we'll get into the very end of it, especially whenever you see, once again, the personality come out, whenever you see Billy come out of that situation.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought that worked very well.
Agreed. Yeah.
Sam's true. Okay, so Sam and Richie visit Dewey, who is divorced from Gail. They ask for his help and stopping the killer, and he contacts Gale and Sidney Prescott, warning them about the return of Ghostface.
And Dewey has the limp again.
He's got the limp again. He's got the music back again.
Yes.
Everything that was not cohesive in the fourth one is back in the fifth one.
Yes.
So, and then what makes me laugh is about when Dewey goes, "Look, I'm gonna tell you what to do. I'm gonna tell you how to survive, and then you guys can go on ahead and go your own way."
And he's the Randy. He breaks down the rules for him.
Right. Yeah. Me too. And he looks at Richie. He goes, "How long have you known Richie? He could be the killer."
Oh yeah,
making us self-aware that
he pins Richie right off the bat, and I love that.
Same here. And I also like how he goes, "Look, I've been stabbed 4 times."
No, 9 times.
9 times.
9 times. Yeah.
That's myself.
I was like, oh my God, 9 times. Okay.
And this is what I thought to myself, like, well, in the fourth one, you didn't even acknowledge that you've been verse stabbed.
Yeah.
So now here
I was reading something that says it's because apparently he was doing physical therapy and not drinking, and so he was able to walk. And then so he has stopped doing that and is drinking again, and now it's back. I'm like, I don't think it works. I don't think nerve damage works quite that way.
No.
But
I do like how they bring up the subject of, oh, it could also be you as well because you've been at the bottom of the bottle.
Yeah.
And then stuff like that too. So therefore you could be the killer. And he goes, "Man, that cut deep." I love that.
Yeah.
So I definitely like how he said, he goes, "You could be the killer too because that cut deep."
Yeah.
Then I like how he's still trying to get over Gale. He's watching her on the morning news show that she does, and he's not 100% healed from that.
Yeah.
So I definitely like how they're giving us more background on what these characters have been up to over 22 years. So I thought that was really cool. And then,
I mean, it's only been 11 since the last time we saw them. Technically, because we saw them in 4, and they were together at that time. They were together, and I think they were getting married, or they were already married, or whatever. Because they got married at the end of 3, right?
Yeah, they got married at the end of 3.
And so, but they were still together in 4, and now something happened, and they're not together. All that stuff happened. They're not together anymore, and I was like, I'm wondering if they did that because of the real life split between them, because that happened in between that time. So it made me wonder when I first watched it if they chose to do that because of the real life split, and maybe they didn't want to do those romantic scenes together, or anything like that.
Right.
I don't know.
That would make sense though for them to do that though in that kind of way.
Yeah.
So I was okay with that because it gives you more character development and more character building when it comes down to that.
Yeah.
So I thought it actually fits in. And then of course you also have this other scene basically back where we're in the high schoolers and they're all talking about requels and all that stuff. And, I definitely like how they start talking about the reboots and how Hollywood has run out of ideas and just having casual conversations like how we do as film fans.
Yeah. Yeah, it really touched on the meta-ness of this entire series, this entire franchise, and I really enjoyed that quite a bit. I feel like this one managed to do the meta talk better than part 4, because they really leaned heavy into it in part 4, like really heavy into the meta stuff. I mean, just from the opening alone of that movie. They went wild with it, but I think they were, for a lot of stuff, they were able to kind of rein it in and showcase it a lot better in this one.
I think so too. It's a lot more settled than what I had remembered in the theaters watching this one. At first, I'm like, okay, this is actually kind of taking me out of it, but I haven't seen it since I was in theaters. So now watching it again, I'm like, yeah, this is actually more settled than I had remembered.
Yeah.
And so it didn't really take me out of it as much as it did the first go around, because in the first go around, I'm thinking to myself, what are we going to get? What's the connection with the other films and stuff like that? So that was my first thing that I was thinking of whenever I was going in it. But now that I know what I got, and revisiting this a year later,
Yeah.
I think that it has a lot more balance in a sense when it comes down to it.
Yeah. Yeah, and I like also, because we were talking about the meta stuff, and obviously with that comes Stab as their movie franchise within the movie, and I love that in 4, 7 is the most recent one. They've only had one since, just like with Scream, which I like. And this is and because they talked about earlier in the movie about the whole elevated thing. Apparently, they made it somewhat elevated, but also not, which I thought was weird because the stuff that they show you, like Ghostface with the silver mask and the flamethrower, is, I mean, if you want to tell me that's elevated horror, I don't. I mean, sure, but I don't buy that for a second as being
No.
part of elevated horror. That's just weird. That's all it is. And I also love that they poke fun at themselves about how they say it's called Stab, but it's actually Stab 8. Why don't you just call it Stab 8? Just like how this one is Scream, but it's really Scream 5. I really enjoyed how they poked fun at themselves for that.
I do too. I like how they poke fun, but then it feels more like a spoof film than it does anything else.
Yeah.
But yeah, then Dewey joins them at Mindy and Chad's home and is reunited with the twins, Mother Martha, Randy
Yes.
Meek's sister, with the 3 attacks being on people related to, in some capacity, of the original killer. Mindy deduces that the killer is following the rules of the requel, a continuation of a narrative that pretty much derives heavily from the plot of the original, while using Tara and her friends as the generation, using Sam's connection to Billy as a way to weave the legacy characters.
Yeah.
And I like how they actually use these new characters and then trying to also share the same universe as the legacy characters. I thought that was pretty cool, though. They actually try to elevate both of those at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I the only thing that bummed me out about this when it came to the legacy characters is that we never get to see all 3 of them together. You know what I mean? It's the only thing. It was kind of like what happens in the Star Wars sequels. We never got to see, Luke, Han, and Leia all together at the same time. We didn't get to see Dewey, Sid, and Gale together at the same time, unfortunately, because Sid doesn't even show up until after Dewey's gone. So, but it's just I feel like there is a lot that they could have probably done with these legacy characters that they didn't end up getting a chance to do. We don't even see Sydney until halfway through the movie, which I mean, I was fine with because I was prepared for them to be kind of moving on, which is why I have never been worried about the fact that she's apparently not in the new one. Granted, I haven't seen it. Maybe she is. I don't know. I can't say one way or the other. But it's never bothered me because we only got her for less than half a movie, anyways. In this one,
Right. And I didn't think of it like this. Like the legacy characters were never really actually together. They were busy off on their own adventures in a sense, trying to solve different things.
Yeah.
So I never thought of it in that kind of context before until now. So yeah, you're right though. Sydney being in the movie is you barely even see her in this film.
Yeah.
At all. And you're expecting them to do more with the legacy characters whenever they're there, but they're not there to really serve anything other than nostalgia, if you think about it.
I mean, Dewey helps them with some key stuff, but honestly, until the very end, Gale and Sydney don't really have much of a purpose to be there.
Right. And my thing is this. Now, my question is this. So you remember what Amber says, where basically Tara and Sam are the star. So do you think that they're given that's the reason why they're being sidelined? Is because they're telling us as an audience that these are your stars now. These are the ones that are going to carry the franchise. These legacy characters are not going to be the ones that carries it anymore.
Yeah, I 100% believe that the whole, because that was the problem with number 4, with them trying to like almost reboot this franchise, is that they still just relied so heavily on the legacy characters that there was no real way, there was no real, off point for them. Whereas in this, it's like, we get the scene with Sid jogging and she's like, I don't even want to go there. And then it's like, okay, we don't even see her then again for at least a half an hour,
right.
And so it's like she could show up, she might not. We don't really know. And I was okay with it because we had these new characters that I felt worked, most of them.
Mm. You see, I felt the opposite when we came down to these characters, in a sense. I just didn't feel like any of them really helped move along the plot line at all, up until I saw the last movie. And that's whenever now the last movie that, like this recent one, I really enjoyed these characters. These characters were the standout for me in this last one. And going back on this one, they work now because I saw that.
For me, it felt like what we got when we watched the original movie. We didn't know any of these characters in the first movie. These were just characters in this movie. And that's what it felt like to me. It's just, here's these characters in this movie. Yes, there's connection, but they don't dive into the amount of connection that would have taken me out of it until far later into the movie. And by then I'm already in with these characters,
Right.
At least for me, at least.
Right. And I think the reason why I was more sold this go around with the characters in this last one in 6 is because of the fact that they did more character building with them.
Yeah.
And they got more established into that one versus this one.
Yeah.
And so I didn't think of it as that way of us basically seeing Stu and Sydney and all them for the very first time in the first Scream movie. And it's the same way that we would actually see it in the 5th one. So I didn't think about it in that kind of way either. But I think that they do a better job in the 6th one establishing these characters. And then going back on this one, I'm actually more sold on the characters now because now I know what they're like on this next one.
I mean, most of the characters are just fodder for Ghostface, realistically. Even the ones that don't actually die in the end, because like the twins don't actually die. And I know that at least I've seen at least the brother in the trailer for the new one. Are they both in it?
Yeah, they're both in it.
Okay. So it makes sense that we would get more development with them now because we know who they are. And so they can then do more. But yeah, in this one, really, they're there to be those stand-in characters for like Randy in them. You know what I mean? Like she is definitely the Randy of the group, because she knows all about the movies and everything. And they were there to become fodder for Ghostface, but with them surviving, which again, this Amber is not as good of a killer as she thinks she is. She's vicious, but she's not precise in any way because she lets 6 people live that she tries to kill. Like it's wild that she is. I feel like she lets live more people than she actually kills.
Right. It's like, oops, I almost killed you, but I didn't kill you.
Yeah, so many times that this happens. Yeah. Oh, actually, no, I think it's 7. 7? Might be 7.
It's about, if you count Dewey, then of course Gail, the 2 twins.
Well, no, Dewey she gets.
Who did? Yeah, did. Okay.
So it's the twins, it's the 2 main girls, Tara and Sam. It's the 2 legacy characters,
which would be Gail and Sydney. That's
for some reason I thought there was one more, but now I'm not honestly sure.
But yeah,
either way, there's about at least 6. Yeah, there's at least 6. Yeah.
There's 6 that survive this, and yeah, they're not very cohesive whenever it comes down to killings or anything like that. I think Billy and Stu were the only 2 that was actually consecutive with their kills, unless you count the other killers though too, because they were more consecutive though too, when killing everybody. But yeah, Sam's connection to Billy as a weave to the legacy character. Ghostface then murders Wes and his mother, Sheriff Judy Hicks, at the town. Dewey reunites with Gail, who has arrived to town to cover the story at the hospital. Tara and Richie are attacked by Ghostface, but are saved by and arriving Dewey and Sam. Sam, Tara, and Richie escape, but Dewey is killed when they attempt to finish off Ghostface. So I liked how, once again, they're playing off the technology of it.
Yeah.
And, that's when we have we actually have Judy, who actually answers the phone. Her son's trying, basically she's going to go out and get sushi for her son and her to eat. And Wes is over there getting ready to take a shower.
I love Judy's initial reaction before he even, she hears something, like the door open, I think, and she calls out, no answer. Her first instinct is to grab a knife, and I love that.
Same.
It's like so many movies go by, and people just like, oh, what's that noise? And they go and inspect it. No weapon, no nothing. But she's like, I feel like she could have she's the sheriff. I feel like she had to have had a gun nearby. Like, come on. But she grabs a knife, and I don't know. I like that visual of her walking around with a knife.
Yeah. I think it also has a lot to do with too. She's not just a civilian off the clock.
Yeah.
Either she's a cop, so therefore she's gonna be more self-aware than just a civilian. So she's gonna come out with some kind of weapon. And at first, I thought she would be the one who would actually carry be the new legacy character to go forward.
Yeah, so did I. Her death was, other than Dewey's, hers was the most shocking to me.
It was.
I did not see that happening. And then I did not think that her son was gonna die right then and there too. I thought he was gonna find her, and that was gonna be part of it. And maybe he would die later on, kind of a thing. But no. And they did such a good job of building tension throughout the scene with him. I noticed this quite a few times where you'd have an open door, right? And you'd hear that music just start to swell. And the door would close and the music would drop and there'd be nothing there, because they're trying to get you ready as an audience member for a scare, so they're getting you tense, and then they're dropping it, and then they're doing it. They do it 3 times before it actually happens. And I thought it was a fantastic way to really build that tension throughout the scene.
Same here, because, okay, so you have Judy coming home, for instance, and then she's checking everything around. But I liked how she goes up to the front door and there's Ghostface, and he winds up stabbing her. And the tension takes away off of Wes to okay, thank God, Wes is okay. But at the same time, damn, they got the mother.
Yeah.
So therefore, that tension is now erased, because you're thinking everything's all fine on the West front because of the fact that, okay, you have one kill. There's no way they're going to have another kill within the same scene.
Yeah.
Then when you get Wes out there who winds up seeing his mom dead outside, then that tension is, like you said, it raises again, and then he's dead.
Yeah.
Wes winds up dying.
Yeah. Yeah, he closes the door, turns around, and boom, there he is. Just because I was not expecting that as well. I thought they did a great job with that scene. I really enjoyed it.
I did too.
Seems weird to say that I enjoyed these kill scenes, but
trust me, when I had Vengeance on, he goes, even I have to check my own self whenever I'm talking about Scream. Is yeah, that scene was actually pretty good. What the hell is wrong with me?
Right?
But yeah, then I like how Dewey and Dale reunites, and she goes, "Really, Dewey? You sent me a text message saying that the killer is alive?"
Yeah. Oh man! He's like, you were on the air,
You were on the air. Well, how do you know I was on the air?
Yeah.
And she goes, I watched your show. But yeah, then who has arrived to cover the story at the hospital? Tara and Richie are attacked by Ghostface. And Richie's also watching at this point. He's watching all the stab movies to get prepared, so that way he'll know what to do if he survives.
Yeah, because he claims that he had never seen them before.
Right. And he's watching them on Netflix, and then, all of Tara's friends are actually thinking that Richie might be the murderer because they don't really know him that well either. And so after that winds up happening, everybody winds up leaving, and then it just leaves Tara alone in the hospital because of the fact that the sheriff that was supposed to be watching them got the call about Judy, And then you'd wind up seeing Sam getting pissed off, like, where are you supposed to be with my sister? Well, I got the call out here.
Yeah. See, this hospital scene to me worked a bit better than the one in part 4 because at least we got to see like the dead security guard. So we knew that there was somebody there, but Ghostface took him out. You know what I mean? So unlike the completely empty apparently hospital in the 4th movie,
Right.
so I actually really liked this hospital scene quite a bit. I thought it was really well done and some really great cinematography going throughout it. The shots that were done, the lighting I thought was fantastic, especially when Ghostface comes walking out of the room all slow. They use the shot in the trailer, and it's one of the best shots in the entire movie. It's just he comes out, it's just like looking sideways down the hall at her as she's crawling down the hall. It's just like it's creepy. I love it. And I thought it was really well done.
Same. That's actually one of my favorite scenes. Is the hospital scene? That part of the hospital scene is actually one of my favorites. The cinematography, the lighting works. Then you're seeing Tara in the wheelchair try to wheel herself, and then he gets a call from Sam, I believe, and that's when he winds up answering in it, and then that's when you hear him saying, well, it's going to be a shame that something happens to your sister. And he's doing this as he's following her. So this is on a whole different level, especially whenever they have different using the different voices again, digitalizing it and stuff like that. So I thought that was really cool.
I like that the modulator is like built in. So like you see at one point, like they press the button like near the neck, and it's so like it's just in there. Like they have the ability to hold it in their hand too, but it's obviously still it's built into the mask too. And I thought that was really cool.
That's what I liked about that was that where it's just a press of a button and you can actually get that kind of Ghostface flavor to it. So that's something I thought that was really cool.
So that Ghostface could still talk just while walking around. I thought that was really, I was like, okay, that's cool.
It makes it a whole lot more haunting and terrifying, if you ask me.
Yeah.
So that worked for me. And then, they wind up getting into a wrestling match, Dewey and Ghostface.
Yeah.
And then, Dewey winds up shooting him, making him go up against the wall. They're about to leave, and then Dewey's like, they always come back. I have to shoot him in the head. I'm like, Dewey, you do not need, just go back on the elevator. You don't need to go do this, dude. I understand, but we still have a couple more minutes in this movie, so you can survive. Go back in the elevator.
Yeah.
He goes back. Now, this is the part that is brutal for me.
This kill is the most brutal kill of the entire movie. Not just because of who it is, but like the way she kills him.
Takes 2 knives.
Yeah. It's like I talked earlier about how vicious she is. This right here is proof pudding right here, man. It's like it is the exact thing I was talking about, just how incredibly vicious she is as a killer. Because we haven't seen, like, she guts him essentially outside of like the opening scene of the first movie where they gut Casey's boyfriend, and then there's a scene, I think it's in the third one. I think we see it's either the third one or the fourth one. I can't. I mean, it's all blurred together now. Where we see another scene that's similar to that, where somebody gets gutted. You don't see stuff like that very often in these movies. Not that vicious, and so it made his death that much harder to take. Is even watching it again, it was still hard to watch.
Definitely, man. Like, she stabbed him at every major artery that he had whenever he was stabbed those 7 times.
Yeah.
And ripped him wide open in a sense.
Yeah.
And seeing him die that way, I'm like, you survived all 5 of these movies, all 4 of these movies, and then get gutted like that. I'm like,
I mean, like you said, 2 knives, one in front, and she just pulls them both straight up. And I'm like, oh my God, man, this is insane what's happening right now. Yeah.
And I was shocked. I was saddened by the fact that Dewey's killed off because he's actually one of my favorite characters, aside from the other character in part 2, where you actually see him naming off all the movies and stuff like that. I forgot his name now, but
yeah.
But yeah. So then we wound up after that. Sydney arrives in town after learning of Dewey's death and meets with Gil and Sam at the hospital. Sydney asks Sam to help stop the killer, but Sam declines, choosing to leave town with Richie and Tara. And of course he would want to leave town because of the fact he just wants to have Sam to himself, to where he can kill Sam probably.
Yeah.
And get her into a safe environment. And also Tara, to kill both of them.
Yeah. Sydney coming back. I want to talk a little bit about that.
Okay.
She makes a comment at one point, not long after she returns, that all of this started with Billy Loomis. And it bothered me that she said that, because she knows better, and she knows that Roman's the one who started all of this. Like, we go through all these movies. We go through 3 and we find out that Roman's the one that gets them to do all of this. He's the one that taught them how to do all of this. And I kind of like, I get that they're leaning more into the stuff from the first movie with the Billy stuff and the stew. I get that, but I would have really liked a Roman reference here instead.
It would be more fitting, especially when you're talking about the stab movies. And they were trying to make a stab movie in part 3.
Yeah.
So it would be more fitting to do that in part 5, because you have this new generation of kids with this new genre way of looking at horror movies and being presented in that kind of way. It would be more fitting to actually talk about Roman, and I think that he would actually...
And she could have connected a bit with Sam in that way. She could have been like, yeah, well, my brother was a serial killer. So, like, I understand what it's like to have family to be family of a serial killer. She could have connected with her in that way too. You know what I mean?
Right. I think that would actually be a better way of actually doing it, instead of trying just to copy part 1 and part 2.
Yeah.
And just make it where you're talking about the third film, because it's more fitting.
Yeah.
In that kind of way. But still.
Yeah.
But Sydney and Gale follow neighbors, which is to be revealed as Stu's former home, where the original Woodsboro massacre took place. Now, I remember in the theater looking at the white fence, especially when you see one of the twins comes out of the house. I'm like, that white fence looks familiar. But I'm like, did they do what I think they did? I'm like, no. I was like, that's just as iconic as the Nightmare on Elm Street house.
I remember seeing, because they show a shot of it in the trailer, the original trailer for this movie, and I remember seeing it, and I remember the internet exploding with screenshots of it all over the place, and be like, "This has got to be Stu's house." like, I mean, and obviously it is, but we didn't really know for sure, because like the paint's different, obviously, and like there's a little bit of different, stuff, updated stuff, because it's been a while, and so. I remember thinking that, okay, is this actually his house? And then we get the confirmation of it. And it was just, I thought it was a great way to tie in, to kind of bring us back around to that original movie. We get a very similar scene with it inside the house, the party going on, and so I thought it was a real nice touch for them to do that with.
I did too. Give it a modern day take on it. Of course, the house looks different. It's more modern than in the 90s.
Yeah.
And it still has that flavor to it. But once it's revealed, that's what it is. I'm like, I was geeked out in the theater just watching it. And I'm like, because all I saw was a white fence. And I'm like, wait, is that what I think it is?
Yeah.
Because I have a rule where I only watch one trailer to something.
Oh, gotcha.
And that's it. So, because some trailers actually give away too much, so I didn't go. So I didn't go in and saw anything from that trailer that you mentioned, and I was just geeked out, surprised by it. I'm like, and just to have that little mystery element not spoiled for me. And then when they give you that wide angle shot of Sydney looking out from the outside of the house and looking and her face falls out, realizing, oh shit.
That's the shot that they use in the trailer. Yeah.
I really love that shot. That's actually one of my favorite shots that they use. It's like, oh shit, I'm back at this place again. And it's nostalgic for us, but it's haunting for her.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And it's just going in knowing that it's his house and just like looking around, like, okay, there's the staircase. We know stuff that happens. There's the living room. It's set up fairly similarly too. All the we go back into that kitchen. The infamous kitchen where it all goes down at the end. It was,
and even the basement, awesome. Dude, like the basement part, especially when the two teens are going down to the basement.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, this gives me instant vibes of when the girl who got stuck in the
Tatum.
Yep. And when Tatum got stuck in the garage.
Yep.
So yeah, I had instant flashbacks of nostalgia from it. I really thought it was really played off really well. And of course, you also have one of the characters telling Amber, which is one of the twins, and she says, "Well, you broke one of the rules. You're supposed to ask someone to come with you.
Yeah,
because you could be the kill. Because I could be the killer." And then Amber plays off the narrative of this. She goes, "Well, since you think I'm the killer, then you could be the killer too."
I love it because then she's like, I am the killer. Even though she's not, and I thought it was just a really I love that basement scene. It's so good.
It definitely is.
I also love that we get to see more of Stab 1, more like scenes from Stab 1 that we never saw before. We saw the Randy scene with him talking, so we never got a chance to see that before.
Right.
I thought that was really cool.
That was a cool meta moment, especially when you see Mindy over there and she's telling basically her uncle to watch out just as she was about to get stabbed.
Yeah.
So I thought that was pretty fun, a fun moment for me where she's actually witnessing her uncle dying.
Yeah.
Uncle Randy. But yeah, Chad and Mindy are both attacked by Ghostface. As the friend group converse, Amber pulls out a gun and shoots Liv in the head, revealing herself as the killer. Sydney and Gail arrive when Richie is revealed as Amber's accomplice. He stabs Sam, and he and Amber take Sam, Sydney, and Gail into the kitchen where Sydney had first faced off against Billy and Stu. So my first initial thought was like, okay, this is actually feeling back in the 90s again. This is...
Yeah.
And then knowing that it's actually Richie that's the killer, I'm like, dude, you're not even that threatening. You're like a whiny little bitch to me.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I like I said before, Richie is the one character that I was not a big fan of throughout this. So it's just I had no problem with him dying. It was totally
I didn't either.
It was cool with me. I had no problem with it. Yeah.
But I do like how Amber's taking full control of this whole entire situation as well and saying, well, it's me and it's also Richie that's actually doing the killing and we're going to be the new stars.
Yeah. Yeah, they take toxic fandom to the extreme in this movie, with these characters, which I thought was interesting how they really pointed out, they try to make it seem like, because they even say that, there's no such thing as toxic fandom, but that's literally what they are. They're the murderers trying to convince you that they're not the bad guys, and so it's really an interesting piece of commentary on how toxic these fandoms can be.
Right. And then they also point out like you said, they point out the fact that, there's toxic fandoms out there. And they even say how they don't like toxic, how they don't like it.
Yeah.
But yeah. I do like this other thing though too, where you have Richie and Amber who reveals they are fans of Stab, and in this the film series who met online, disappointed in the tragedy taken from the most recent stab. 8, they decided to embark a new killing spree, bringing back the original cast to provide new and improved source material for a future requel. Stab film and intend to frame Sam as the killer. Sam attacks Richie and Tara attacks Amber, but is incapacitated.
Yeah.
So let's see here. But yeah, here's the thing. Whenever they were saying, "Oh, I met him online,"
yeah,
I was.
It's like a subreddit, a stab subreddit or something like that. I'm just like, that's why I stay away from Reddit, man.
It can be dangerous.
Yep.
But it's kind of weird to actually see these two people because then she goes, "Yeah, we met off of a Reddit, and we had some common interest, and we thought we could actually improve on some things." I'm like, dude, this is actually real life. What are you thinking here? You know?
Yeah, it's just two people who should never be in touch with any people. You know what I mean? Like, these are the kind of people who just no. I just the fact that he sought Sam out specifically, built this relationship with her. They've been together for 6 months. Like, that's an insane long play. It's granted, Billy pretty much did the same thing. So it's like they're trying to kind of play a little bit on what happens in the first in both the script plus their motives, their meta motives.
Right.
I just don't like him.
I didn't like him either, to be honest with you. And I thought he's just like a little whiny bitch the whole time.
Yeah.
And he's not even threatening. Girl, if you're going to meet someone online, at least let him be at least 200 pounds muscular weight to where you can actually be a lot more dangerous than this person. Don't get me wrong. I love this guy as an actor. Yeah. But this guy is like a little whiny person that I wouldn't
want. The thing is, though, he doesn't even do much. He doesn't.
No.
He what does he kill? One person, maybe two? I don't even... Or he tries to kill one person, maybe two. It's right. Amber who does all the heavy lifting, really.
And you're right. Richie doesn't really do anything.
Yeah. He attempts to kill the female twin, who, again, name I cannot remember. And he stabs Sam. Does he stab Sam? I think he stabs Sam.
Yeah, he stabs Sam.
Yeah. So it's like, he doesn't do much, man.
No, he just stabs her one time, Sam one time, saying that he was the one who is also doing the killing. Then you also have, of course, you wind up having Amber, who admits and owns up to everything that she's done.
Yeah.
And she stabs Gail.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Gail got shot, though, too, right?
Yeah. Yeah, she got shot.
At the end of the movie, she's just sitting there on the ambulance, just fine. Like, I'm pretty sure with a gunshot wound, you're going to the hospital.
Right, because remember this, Amber's over there pretending, goes, there's a killer in the house. Yeah. Please help me. Help me. And she's leaning over a little bit, and Gail and Sydney both look at each other. It's a trap. And at that moment, that's when Amber winds up opening fire and shooting her in the stomach, and then that's when Sydney says, "You need to go to the hospital, girl."
Yeah, but she doesn't. That's the thing. She doesn't. She's just fine, apparently. she's super Gail, whatever.
Right. Just like, okay, you know what? We're gonna let you do your news media report at the very end of this, so it's gonna be good. We're gonna sew you up and act like nothing even happened.
Yeah.
Hollywood magic, but
yeah, pretty much.
But yeah, then you also have this thing too where Gail's breaking free and shooting Amber, who lands on and turns on the stove and is set on fire. This made me laugh my ass off.
I
thought it was such a great kill.
Holy shit, man! They went for it with that scene. It was wild.
Same, because I was thinking to myself, okay, because I forgot what happened in this thing, so I'm like, okay, does she shoot the oven, making it explode? What happens here? Because so my first initial thought was an explosion. But then when you find out, oh, she shoots her, makes her land on the flame, and then causes her to burn, that's brutal.
It is,
That,
man. Especially after we find out that didn't even kill her.
no, that didn't even
Like,
phase her. We'll talk about that in a minute.
yeah.
Then after that, Richie pursues Salmon, who sees another hallucination of Billy, which brings her attention to Amber's abandoned knife and braces her parental heritage, is what I call it.
Nice.
She uses the knife to stab Richie repeatedly before shooting and killing him.
She went full serial killer on this dude, and I loved it.
Same, because she stabs him over and over again, and then Sydney turns around and goes, "They're never dead." She just shoots him in the head after that, after stabbing him like 7 times.
She shoots him like twice in the chest, and then once, I think it's actually like here, it goes like, because he's laying down, and she shoots him, and it goes like through his chin and up.
And not to give any spoilers for you or anything like that, but they do mention some part of that in the movie itself. So it is very continuity within it and everything. Good. So that's something I wanted to mention.
Good. Okay.
That part. Yeah, but yeah. And then, you know, I like how they do that. And then after that, Amber gets back up after she said you have to. And then of course that's when I think
she's all burnt to shit, just charred up.
I love the makeup and the prosthetics for that though, because it does look like a burned victim. It doesn't look CGI or anything like that. It's really good practical effects for it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And she comes out there screaming, and then then of course we wind up seeing Tara shoot her best friend in the head. Yeah. Which I thought was bittersweet, to be honest with you, to have Tara have that moment.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like Tara got over it, you know? I feel like she was like, this bitch tried to kill me. I'm good. We'll just do
it.
And
she also Richie also stole her inhaler, which also made them go back over there too. Because remember, that's why they were going even back over to the thing too, because she forgot her inhaler when they were trying to get out of town.
Yeah.
So that's Richie also had the inhaler.
Yeah.
So she was just pissed off at that point. She was like, I'm just done. This friendship is fake.
Yeah.
But yeah, Tara and the Meeks twins are loaded into the ambulance to be taken to the hospital. Sam thanks Sydney and Gail for their help. Gail promises not to write a new book about the new murders and gives the killer notary opting to write a tribute to Dewey instead. Sam joins Tara in the ambulance, and the night's events are covered at a news report.
Do they cover, like, has she started the book at all? Do they cover any of that in the new one?
They don't cover that part in the thing itself.
Because I know Gail's in it, so I thought that would have been cool.
Right.
There was some mention of her writing the book or something about Dewey. That'd been cool, but oh well.
But I do have to say this. I enjoy I actually enjoy doing all these rewatches with you. Yeah,
man, this has been great. I've loved it.
Same. Yeah. I enjoyed doing these reviews with you. And then, you know, another thing I want to do is do my ranking real quick. So I'm going to go Scream 1. Oh, no. Scream 2 is my number 1.
Oh, okay.
I'm going a little different. Scream 1 after that. Then I'm going with Scream 4. It actually got jumped up to the number 3 spot. So, and then after that, I'm going to put this new one in 4.
Okay.
3 at the bottom, a little bottom, and then this one.
Okay.
At the very bottom a little bit, because I enjoyed it, but not enough to actually boost it up. But part 4 actually made me, after rewatching it, made me enjoy it a lot more than what I wanted.
Nice.
So, yeah.
Very cool. Yeah, mine's a bit different than yours. And again, I have not seen the new one, so mine is that number 6 is not in my ranking, but I go 1, 5, 4, 2, and 3. That's nice. And I've rewatched these many times, and that numbering has not changed.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Last year, I think I had Scream 2, Scream 1, and I think I had 4 like the very bottom for me. So it kind of definitely moved back up.
To everybody out there, you know, I love all of these movies. So just because, you know, 2 and 3 are at the bottom doesn't mean anything, because I still love watching them. every second of it.
But still, man, this has been a blast. I'm glad that we got a chance to finish up the rewatches and stuff like that.
Too. Yeah.
I hope that you enjoyed this new one because I enjoyed it a lot. And but let me know what you think. I want to know what you think later on.
Absolutely.
We'll probably have like a Scream after talk or something like that, where we'll just talk about Scream for a little bit.
Just do like a franchise talk a little bit.
Yeah, just a little franchise talk.
Nice. I dig it.
Okay. Because I want to get your thoughts on it. I missed you the other night when we couldn't do this like we wanted to, but I want to get your initial thoughts on it.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited to see it and definitely talk about it.
Okay. Well, do you have anything going on with the Merc for the Movie blog or anything like that?
Just same as always. Go check out Last Call at McLaren's, my How I Met Your Mother. Right now we're doing How I Met Your Father because it's airing weekly. So go and check that out. It's on the Merc Movie Blog YouTube channel. It's on podcast just under the Last Call at McLaren. So definitely go and check that out.
Nice. So, guys, that's going to be it as far as this review goes. I am taking a couple of days off just to have a little bit of a mental health break and stuff like that. But I will be back. So, matter of fact, I'll let you guys know whenever I have something new that I'm actually going to be brewing up. But Saturday, I'm actually going to come back to do my John Wick Chapter 4 review for the spoiler review at 8 o'clock Central Time, 9 o'clock Eastern Time. But I am taking a few days off. So, with that being said, that's going to be it for the night. Thank you again, Josh. I do appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. You're always welcome over here. I do appreciate it. And always until next time, guys. Bye-bye.